and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, all you lovers of life and Gaia's planetary ascension. In this beautiful time, welcome to November's Ascension update. And in this update, we're going to talk about higher spirituality. What does it mean to become a vibrational embodiment, and how to really witness the majestic presence of who we are, as well as some of the other things that are showing up that I am channeling for this month, and the messages that I've automatically received through Spirit just in the random moment. It's just how it is. So first, let's get on with some of the monthly updates. As always, just a part of the, feeling into what can the collective energy sort of feel like at this time. So the first thing I want to say before I begin is that the most crucial message I received was, if you remember, I think it was in September, or the end of September, was it October, I received a message that the union, the divine union of illumination, is now in completion stage for those beings who are actually a part of this purpose and mission. Now, all of a sudden, I receive words, union is underway. And it's kind of like a progress, because completion stage means there's still things that are kind of culminating and completing, while things being underway in a definition kind of way, it means having started and in progress, so being done and carried out. So definitely a confirmation for us that things are unfolding. It's kind of like pieces of the jigsaw puzzle coming together slowly and quickly as well, because there was a lot of death energy present towards the end of October, which was showing me that death in its essence is something we can avoid. It just happens, and we've been associating the symbol of death with something negative for so long. Even in tarot or Tower principle, we have been associating that as a negative event or something being drastic or very intense for us. But the thing is, when we are aligned with the core of ourself, with our ascension journey, these things are actually seen from the perspective of being actually good for us, because the stagnant energy is finally ready to move out, make room for the new. And death, in a sense that for example, you meet a life partner that's perfect for you, that you are meant to have a mission, sacred mission with. That also changes you. It changes your life as you knew it before, as you were single. So that death is also very positive and uplifting, because your life as it once was, as you remember it, as suddenly making no more sense, because you're making a room for another being there, and the mission together, it's completes. The singularity becomes duality, which will create something that we say it's a divine triangulation process. So that's a strong message, and that's why I'm calling this a vibrational higher spirituality embodiment, which means we needed to make room for that. We needed to become these sacred vessels for this embodiment, so that our mission could be more expanded in a way of thinking what we all need to do as a part of this, but it's more like just natural sense of what the mission is at its core, that we as a vibrational embodiment are this mission. I know this beautiful card in one of the oracle decks. It's called Vibrational, and that card, it's actually from a fractal oracle, talks about those beings who don't need to change or alter or activate their energy, because they've already come here as perfectly attuned powerhouses who are meant to share their journeys, with a greater, larger whole. And I call these beings, essential pioneers, volunteer souls, whatever. And this month is so special because it holds a 12 that adds up into 3 monthly universal energy. So it's a 12 and 3 universal month. In tarot, we know this as archetypes. 12 is the Hangman and 3 is the Empress. So a lot of people now, a lot of you are waiting. You're kind of like seeing the fruits of your labor as you're moving into a more passive stage. And passive doesn't mean you no longer do anything, because powerhouses are always doing things energetically, and this is going to be the main theme. I'm going to talk about this further on. So it's almost like we're focusing on that. We're focusing more on our vibrational purpose, and things are being created in a new way. So that's kind of like the the magnitude of the most essential message for this month, that the creatrix, which is the 3 energy, and it's that triangulation I spoke about in the beginning, it's like naturally happening. It's naturally unfolding through this hangman, this reversal, this seeing things from a greater perspective. So yeah, this month, as you know, we also have the 1111. It's a portal of light. It's also a portal of unity, of illumination. And before that, we will have on the 4th, which is actually this week already, a Taurus full moon, which for a lot of you will be a culmination of your efforts, which will kind of translate through that hangman energy, which means you don't need to do so much in terms of having errands all over and thinking you need to be at all times, at all places, and assist everyone, but working more from a vibrational space of life force mastery, which is a more intelligent force telling you where you need to be, what you need to do in each moment. It's beyond what you think you need to do. So to be a planetary life server, and I've made a few videos as that in October, means that you trust the process of Gaia and you are the messenger of Gaia, and you're actually moving along the lines of knowing where to be, how to be, who to be with in each moment. You also know how to protect your sacred space. It also is the part of the number 4, which teaches us that. It teaches us grounded embodiment. Whenever we are disembodied, we can't bring this higher light. And I've spoken about this, that souls who are very disembodied, they're kind of like up there somewhere swimming in the astral heavens. These souls cannot do much because the energetic shift takes place while we're in physical form. That is why we're here. Never forget that. It's so important. And this Taurus full moon will bring a lot of that, the possibility to ground ourselves, to move deeper into our bodies, and to experience, again, the sensual pleasures of life that we're a part of. And through this sensualization process, we're anchoring life force and activating it anew. And later on, towards the later part of the month, we will have a Scorpio new moon, which is, again, in a way, it's like Scorpio, as you know, and Jupiter is now in Scorpio, the sign of transformation and depth and the underworld, because it's ruled by Pluto. Again, it will be, in a way, caring for these new beginnings within our Lumen Union. And that's why I think the message was union is underway. And a lot of people think that's about, you know, something they wish to happen through their mind or a certain person they have in mind. It's not about that. It can only happen with the individual that can be your exact mirror if that is supposed to be a sacred union, because you can't create on this higher level, which is the main theme of this month's update, this higher spirituality, this vibrational spirituality. You can't do that with someone who's disembodied, who hasn't done the inner work, who's not, you know, creating this overlighting process of self-mastery in the physical form in their own body. So everyone has to go through that first. In October, if you remember, the main Ascension update was about selfless service to Gaia. And I've noticed that this was actually the least watched video that I've ever made. It's funny, right? And I've just recently read somewhere from the Galactics, I think it's the Arcturians, that very few, actually a very small, relatively small percentage of human beings are fully devoting themselves to planetary ascension. So people are still leading their personal lives, focusing on their personal dramas, what they want to manifest, what's good for them or not. And a very small percentage of people are here as complete devotees of this process. And that's why I made this video of the higher calling, the planetary light service arise, and it's time to cultivate, you know, focus on life force, not on the trivial events that actually can withdraw and take away a lot of the life force. And basically we voluntarily give it because we're not yet empowered in our mastery. So in October there was a deepening of selfless service to Gaia. And my example was when I went, and I've shared this with you, this sacred spiritual journey. I went to the Carnic Alps in Italy, and I did a lot of vibrational high vortex work there, and it was just, the feeling was amazing. And I've awakened this new, I've sparked up this new part of me. I've embraced a deeper essence of me, and this Elohim being, this Elohim consciousness, which is this understanding of creation principles and the creatrix of life and the structure of, you know, the physical form and the form of life force, how it manifests through different life forms, right? Different expressions of life. And then this was deeply more activated, more integrated within my being, and it helped me with that so they can have a greater scope of energetic influence. And I've noticed then that because so few people are actually interacting with this, when people see titles like selfless service, it doesn't really interest them much. They're more about, what's going to happen, when Ascension is going to happen, how can I benefit from this event? How can I benefit from this, I don't know, cosmic light coming in? Well, you can't really if you don't do the work, because it's activation integration. Remember, I've always stressed this important fact the most. So I've actually noticed that a lot of people are not watching such videos because they're of no interest to them. They feel they won't benefit. There's nothing there for them. And they kind of lose interest. And people start losing interest at these higher vibrational states because they're so much focusing still on the mundane, on the trivial, and, all these readings we have now available. And it's like a flooding on YouTube of psychic readings and what people can gain from that. And again, your story is your own. No psychic reading, no attunement coming from the outside will be the ultimate for you. It kind of can give you insight and can give you some sort of, random piece of information. You're in the right place at the right time, but that's about it. And you have to know that the ultimate, that inner union, that illumination has to be embraced for you. And that's why some souls get lazy, because they don't want to do the work. And, when you don't want to do self-work, how can you then assist the planet? Because it's even more work. And I've talked to you about the more capable you are of channeling this higher vibrational work, the more you will receive. So you gain more responsibility. And people are like, why would I do that if I will just have more responsibility and more work? I'm not stupid. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes people think through strategizing. And if something feels like it won't bring them much, they wouldn't get into it. So that's kind of sad, but it shows us where collectively people are still at. And that's why the Galactics have shared that a very minimum percentage is at that level. And because Earth is a free will-based planet, people are choosing what they're choosing, and no one can force anyone. But, we are being asked, people are being asked by the higher beings to really participate, because not only you're helping the planet, you're helping yourself, you're helping the group to which you belong through your oversoul complex. You're helping all life to grow and expand. So it is up to you. It is up to a greater group. And remember, when you align with this higher vibrational patterning, this higher light attainment, you will focus on the selfless work through a group complex, because a lot of people who have been so entrenched in this free will modality only, they have forgotten what it means to work within a group complex. What's group consciousness? What kind of group collective you belong to? So think about that, okay, for a minute. So what does this also tell us? It tells us that the path is kind of narrowing down, and a lot of people are losing focus because it feels they don't want to step forward. Thresholds are always challenging, because thresholds represent a sort of initiation that will be new, and you don't know what's there, so you kind of like, I better not go there, right? It takes really courageous, strong, powerful souls, individuals, to really move forward. And that's why the path is narrowing down. Very few function on the planetary service level still, learning their own lessons, and people lose interest, like I said. So that's why I was so strongly called to create this self-mastery course, the 11th level initiation that follows the Tantrika Life Force Mastery course, which is the Galactic Human Embodiment and Planetary Light Service, because, it calls out people to do more, to be more, to bring more, because the planet, as you can see, it's in a lot of chaos. We need people who will become invested, who will invest their life force into the collective life force infusion in this planet and raising of the planetary life force for the greater good of all. And we need people like this. We need people like you. It's not like it's a begging, or, higher beings don't beg, but they do present to you that you will get rewards when you are a part of this path, when you open yourself up to higher spirituality, which is not materialistic spirituality based on, people selling crystals, oracles. It's all fine. I'm not saying that's not a part of, getting to know the process of divine creativity, but we need more people who will invest their journey, who will take a step further, because the opportunity on this planet now is so high. The rise of this celestial energy and the impact that it has on our planet is so strong, it's so potent, that when you choose it, it will be more effortless than in the past, when souls had to really work hard to be in that kind of level. So in a way, you're doing good for the planet, but you're also doing good to yourself and your soul advancement, your soul evolution. So, start making the move, start making the progress. As ask the higher self every day, how can I move forward? How can I move forward more further in this path? And consider taking the course if that's your calling as well, because it's super awesome, very long, very in-depth kind of course. So what is important, a part of this, is that we learn the life force mastery process so that we can use it for divine assistance. And I'm going to talk now about how does this process occur. There are stages. And, you know, I've realized that every time when I look back into each monthly update that I've received channeled guidance from Spirit, it's always in direct alignment with me and what's occurring in that month for me. Because when I shared in October selfless service to Gaia, it's exactly what has moved within me in a deeper vibrational way. And I've been going to places, just drawn, and there were situations there, energy to shift, and it was like, wow. And everything kind of fell always into place. So for me, it's always in alignment. Whatever I talk about in the beginning of the month, when I look back towards the end of the month, it's like, wow, how did this, you know, how can this be possible? Well, Spirit knows. Spirit always brings forth the highest light of information, so we have to follow through. The manifestation will be accurate when you follow the path, whether that's this month that the guidance comes through or whenever, but it will be accurate when you align with it. That's the case. It's not the information I share, the guidance I share is not about, well, that didn't happen, Polona, you know, well, did you do the work? Well, I can't assure that. No one can, because it's a free will. And once you learn to release the free will that keeps telling you, no, not for you, you're not ready. Oh, let's just rather do the old and comfortable and familiar and the, you know, safe, easy money, things like that, the status quo, you know, taking risks is challenging, but it's also deeply rewarding. That's all I will say. So stages of vibrational work I want to talk about now, especially for volunteer souls. And I'm actually creating, and you can see the link down below, as my audiobooks are available. There's also this, I'm channeling forth, I'm in the stage of really channeling forth guidance on this training stations. How does when you start to walk a path of mastery and using that mastery to serve divinity in many different aspects, how you go through different stages and specializations. And I'm channeling this information at this time. It will be a new audiobook, so stay tuned for when that is available if you're interested. It's super cool. It's really good. So the first phase is always the activation. This is when we receive the new initiative of energy. We will start to plant seeds of new energy. And that state, we will feel magnificent. It will be like, wow, you know, this higher self works with us. It's like a tandem kind of work. And it gives us what we need to receive at that level, so we can bring it into embodiment. The second stage of this embodiment process will be the integration. There will also be, as a part of this integration, a lot of purging, cleansing, detoxing, processing energy. Again, if you're a volunteer soul, doesn't mean it's for you. You are taking light packages that you're actually helping to assist the whole. So don't think about, oh, but I don't have any more, you know, stuff to clean. Well, if you're thinking in that way, then you're not ready for planetary light service, because there's always more. And when you clean up your things, you will say, well, I'm ready. Give me more. You know, what can I do? Because I've already learned to do this myself. So my ego doesn't tell me, I don't need to do anything anymore because I've done my things. You know, you all focus on yours. That's not how a beautiful, benevolent being of light thinks. It's just, it doesn't make any sense, you know. So when this processing of energy occurs, for me, I've noticed that the focus really has to be with the energy, because a lot of times when I'm processing energy, it can be really intense. It just goes through my whole body. I can sometimes be... And at that time, I will want to do physical work, like something online, or, you know, it will just fail me. I'll overexhaust myself. I will overwhelm myself. And at that time, the focus will really need to be in that processing, because sometimes you will get upset or overwhelmed, cranky, irritated, because you want to do too much. You're not recognizing that you're already doing. You are being a vessel for this transfusion of light. The third stage is the culmination. That's actually the hardest part, where the most resistance occurs within duality, because it's about remaining balanced at that time, which means there will be aspects that will simply, because it's so much comes to the, you know, when you are purging the energy, you have to, it's almost like you take everything in your hand, right? So imagine this process that's like a metaphor. And when you like hold all the pieces, we've managed to gather all the pieces, it feels the heaviest, it's the hardest, and the resistance will kind of be pulling you apart, and it's almost like, oh, I'm just gonna drop you all. And you won't. Of course you won't, because you know what to do. But the point here is that at that time it will be the most challenging, and sometimes again we'll be overwhelmed, overburdened. It will feel like, the world, the madness of this world, because you've taken it in. And the more you master yourself, the more you become transparent, the easier it will actually be for you. But at the same time, because it's easier, because you've mastered more, you'll get more. Spirit gives you as much as you say, yes, give me, I can do it. And Spirit says, okay, you can do it. And because you say so, and it's the free will that you have and the right to choose as your sovereign self, it's what you're going to create. So that part will be sometimes really intense. And that's almost like just that breaking before the dawn. And this was at the end of October, when one day the sky was, the whole week was covered with chemtrails. And I made a video about this. And then all of a sudden, it was so irritating. And I know what to do at that time. I have this mountain valley with this beautiful gorge in the river. It's just instant cleansing, and I just felt so good afterwards. The energy shifted immediately. Do the nature work, because nature is working in tandem with you. You're not doing it for nature, you're doing it with nature, with Gaia's life force. So it's not like an exclusion kind of thing. When the work is done, that's the last stage, you will feel a sense of completion, like, there's got to be this bursting breakthrough. And again, at the same time, preparing for a new cycle of creation. And when I've had this, the next day was this feeling of a sunny day, everything was bright, and the energy of illumination, and all the oracles I've taken out with enlightenment, illumination, it was all like this super high on energy. And I knew in that moment, that's the breakthrough, but it doesn't end there. And I said, well, we'll see what the next day brings. And again, it's the next day, and we have more chemtrails, and we have more things, because it doesn't end. It's not like something we think, well, I've done, when you think of someone who's like this childish approach, you go like, well, I've done enough, let someone else do it. You don't think that way. When you understand, you are one with Gaia's life force, you understand how much you're needed, you're not going to think that way anymore. And when you feel how much it is needed on a collective level, it's almost like you're not going to be, running around trying to wake everybody up because everyone is where they are. But you will feel the sense of how eager you are, how eager you're becoming. And with your eagerness, with your determination and devotion, you will somehow have a vibrational influence on others. You see, so it is about a vibrational spirituality. This is not about what kind of spiritual teacher, who has better workshops, who's right, who's channeling better guidance. That's for the old world. The new world, the new earth, is about the seeding of this new consciousness. And we all do this individually, vibrationally, without needing recognition, attention, the spotlight. That's so old. So with each cycle of training, we go deeper. So Gaia's ascension is further along the process, and this has to be done unconditionally, has to be done through joy and knowing this is what you do, this is where you belong, not expecting it to be a certain way, like this has to be the outcome, because we volunteered, so the responsibility is on us. And everyone sometimes wants an exit strategy. No way. So it's a sacred work. It's not physical, and yet it is, because it takes place in our physical bodies. There's also something very important I need to share, because there's a lot of people who are very close to their union, the inner union within themselves. They have to start embracing everything they've experienced. Sometimes in sessions, or what people share with me via emails, comes up these patterns they still hold. And in the most cases, in the majority of the cases, they are not yet able to recognize that experience was just experience, and it was a part of the mastery. So because they think they went astray, or they didn't trust, or they did something wrong, they were not on the path, they forgot that experience, by being sometimes even confronted with the more malevolent or dualistic energy, it's what exposed them to this energy, which means they learn how to read it, they learn how to become more discerning. So it's a school of training, and that's why I made that I'm making this new audiobook on these levels of training for the volunteer soul. All you have to go through with different levels and stages leading up to becoming the universal guide and the creation pillar, consciousness, and it's kind of like all this higher overview of what all the soul can achieve in a way, what all soul can activate and become. So in the light of source. So this means we have to welcome ourselves back home, because sometimes these people think I have to work hard to become now part back again of these higher spiritual realms. But we have to realize we were there. We always were there. It's just that the experiences were part of the physical training that was also required. And we can sometimes have a ritual or hold an intention of welcoming ourselves back home. Very important. So this welcoming is the welcoming into the higher essence of who we are. That is awakening within many beings now. It also includes you losing interest in the modern materialistic spirituality, which for me is not even spiritual, but it's almost like, imagine if someone starts to wake up for the first time, but they're still holding a lot of material energy that roots them to the planet. That's how they will interpret it. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just where they are, because there's many levels of what we call spiritual. And the most high advanced levels, again, have to be brought forth through soul initiation. So what is truly higher spirituality? First of all, it's not learned. You can't go to a workshop and learn it. You can't have, you read a book and now you're there. It cannot just entertain your thoughts. It's a shift within your inner being, realizing the higher spiritual law, the natural law, and it's not mental, it's vibrational. So many souls are still swimming on the surface of what it is being perceived nowadays as spiritual, and a lot of times is perceived through materialistic endeavor. So if I do that, then I get paid this way, or I get this back. And it's still like, it's kind of like taking the energy of the old and trying to put a label of the new on it, but the energy is still old. So if you want to change that, you have to go to the root of this, break it apart, and really integrate what was the essence of what you were learning, and then see what is actually beyond that, what lies beyond this, which you perceive as spiritual on that level. So it's still somehow that which is of the old, or earthly spirituality. A lot of times, not earthly in a way of shamanic and deeply rooted with the life force of the planet, but the dense, the distorted earthly energy, which was a lot of times materialistic and again very separate, based on separation, which sometimes deals with a lot of physical manifestation of things, and thinking that's all there is. Now you're being creative and you're being spiritual, but it doesn't end there. You have to know that there's so many levels, and you have to allow your soul to expand, and that what you're doing, what you're creating, is not just rooted on the surface of things. It's not superficial, it's not trivial, it's not dealing with the material world only, with possessions. Higher spiritual mastery is somehow deeply something much deeper. So there are also souls who don't know how to move beyond what is known, familiar, and comfortable to them. They get trapped sometimes in the false light movement, because it's not integrated light and deep spirit awareness and presence. And I want to have an example at this point, because when I shared this post and I made a video on how to assist the planetary life force, how to assist the process of duality that is constantly wanting to recreate more duality on this planet, someone made this comment, that chemtrails, we can change how we view them, and that they're actually calling them kisses in the sky. Okay, no judgment here, okay? But the thing with statements like this, it shows a lot of fogginess. It shows a lot of this, what I call the false light. Just because you call something something else, I always tell you, will not change necessarily the vibrational structure of that thing. We have to be realistic. Spirituality, again, is not about being spiritual up there in the clouds. It's about being masterful. It's about being, really adjacent, prepared, sovereign, free, and realistic. So it's not about pretending an issue is something different than it is, something, we say now the light is about addressing everything as, I want to see it. But it's still going to be what it is at its core. You see, just as the light is what it is at its core, also the shadow is. And although even the shadow serves the light, we have to see it for what it is. And people who are up in the clouds, they can't really shift the energy. They might have positive intentions, and I understand. People want to think positive and they think it will change everything, but it's not mastery. positive movement in itself is not yet mastery. You have to see the difference. I'm just being real here, because people who are, watching, these people want mastery. These people want to move forward. And I was kind of scared at the beginning of this path, trust me, because I said no one will watch these videos because everyone is interested in this materialistic spirituality, buying things, selling things, have spiritual etiquette on it. And Spirit said to me, don't worry, there's always those in the background who are also old ancient souls who are ready, who are just silent. They don't say much, they don't speak much, they don't put themselves out in the spotlight, but they're there, and they will find this information that will move them. And I was very afraid at the beginning. I said, I'll have no audience, no one will care about the things I talk about. And I still see that, my videos are not as popular as people who make manifestation videos or things like that. And it shows where people are. And recently, again, Spirit has trusted, it's confided in me and said, the numbers that denote where the people are in their current state of awareness and where they place their energy and focus and where they are in their mastery are perfect. And no one can, temper that. No one can temper with that. No one can change that artificially. And it's all perfect. And we have to trust this. So again, back to the topic, the light, right? To really move with the light and be in the awareness of the light is about addressing everything in conscious awareness, not lying to ourselves or to the situation or what it is, or to others. Just because we call something else will not make it shift. So we can only shift in complete radical love awareness, which addresses love is truth. Love addresses things with, it's almost like saying, well, this is bad, so therefore I will call it kiss in the sky. It will make it look good. It will make it look better. People have mistakenly interpreted the words, our reality is how we see it. Yes. But that doesn't mean you get to place a different label and that in itself will shift. It means that you have to even see the darkness for what it is and still love it. That is what it means to really see and change everything to your perception. Doesn't mean now you place a false etiquette on something that will shift. No, you have to see darkness for what it is. Because imagine, divine creator and saying, wow, these aspects of me are dark. If I put this mask on them that they're light, I will love them. But if the darkness is what it is, I will no longer love it. Do you see what we're doing? This is the typical case of unawareness in humanity. And it's also laziness. It's people who don't want to do the work. They would rather live in this false illusion. And it's typical New Age propaganda, because even that is what I call the unintegrated light, which again will become shadow. So the dark agenda is not hiding what they're doing. It's very obvious. As you can see, it's all out there. They're not hiding. It's not done in secrecy anymore. So the dark is deeply integrated in what it is. At the same time, the light is also. We who are of the light, we know we're also where we are. We know where we stand and what our mission is. But there's also fogginess. There's this grayness in between, which is the state of confusion. And this is where the majority of the people are who are unaware or falsely, awaken, which is not true awakening, which happens at the core level and only through divine love, which has no judgment over shadow, light. And at that point, we are here to show the way to those who are still in this between zone, this gray zone, which is not the same as divine neutrality. It's like divine escapism. It's not the same. So as I've said, there has to be no pretense, no blindfolding, and nothing new agey if you really want to do the mastership in yourself and for the planet. Sometimes lazy energy can be disembodied that cannot create a vibrational shift as well. When you truly are a vibrational worker, you will get to the core of what you're feeling. Like you look at the sky and you see them like messing up the sky. And when you're truly radically honest and authentic, you will feel sometimes even anger and things coming up. But this is what you're feeling because you're drawing it from the collective. And you're even drawing it from those who are not even able to feel. They're just looking at the sky. Whoa, call it kisses in the sky. Okay. But you will feel it. That's why you are a vibrational worker, because you don't create a mist. You create the truth. So the important thing here is that we have to address everything as it is, with clarity, with neutrality, with love, with respect, whether it is of light, whether it is dark, and simply knowing what we want to bring forth as the unified light, as the light that does not judge, but it also knows what it's creating. So without blindfolds, being radically honest, but without judgment, we can read, confront, and respond to energy through maturity, through mastery, and not wishy-washy behavior. So spirituality, again, is not about being spiritual, because we don't know what that means on this lower level of being immature. But it's about being real, and we can only see that from the vista of mastery. So ancient old souls do not need those labels, because we need truth, and so we're not interested in sugarcoating things and labeling things. But we really know through the vibrational patterns that we read, energetically discern and respond to what we're actually willing to work for, what we're here to do in our missions. And material spirituality, in a way, is not for us, but embodied vibrational spirituality. One more message that really strongly came through this month actually was very random. I think I was just walking or something, which happens to me a lot because, as you know, I walk alone and like a hermit, always integrating light, just really moving the life force, and then everything automatically, spontaneously happens. Was that suddenly Spirit said, well, these times will be known as times when angels again have walked on the earth. And then just before Halloween, or I rather use the word Samhain, which is a traditional holiday, and really understanding also the dark for its purpose and its meaning and the value in our life when it's integrated. And I was in the bath. I had a bath because so much was happening on that intense energetic day. And all of a sudden, when I'm meditating with my crystals, I get this word Cro-Magnon, yeah? And we know that as the initial or the primary, the first advanced human, or the first Homo sapiens sapiens, the new sapiens. And then I said, what are you giving me this word, right? I didn't get it. And then all of a sudden things were starting to pour through, and I had to energetically discern through them so that I could properly understand its meaning. And I was shown how the celestial Elohim, which is the group collective I work with as well, we work through the energetic transference, again, of life force. So just as in those ancient days when there was an advancement of the human species, and if you go on Wikipedia and look up that word Cro-Magnon, you will see that it was about 45,000 years ago. And then when it was first discovered and so on, it was in Europe. It was the seeding of this new race at that time. And of course, for a lot of us, we don't get that because our history is distorted and it lacks a lot of things which we now say, well, these are loopholes in our historic record. So what is this all about? When we understand things through the vibrational upgrades and the different evolutionary cycles that this planet went through, and with it, the humanity living on this planet, we will know that life was always seeded to the next level. So I was shown that just like Gaia is shifting to the new level, there will need to be an adaptive behavior within the humans, which will cause an adaptability, which will be a vibrational adaptability, which will mean a new human species. So Cro-Magnon was given to me as the word that represented an upgrade in human consciousness in terms of creating a new physical human template. So it was in direct relation with the sentence saying the times when the angels once again walked the earth. And we said, well, that was happening in the ancient days, and we knew biblical stories and prophecies. But the thing is, it's happening now too. But we don't always see this because it's such a subtle refinement. It's such a subtle work that takes place over a strong, evolutionary cycle that we don't get to experience perhaps even during the course of only one life. So when we look at our lifespan and we say, okay, 80 to 100 for very healthy human individuals at this time, well, this is what's happening and, it's not possible. But we have to see a deeper component. And when you are becoming invested in this planetary ascension, you will be shown things that will move you. They will move you because you will see things at the higher level. And because of that, you will no longer be able to function on this material spirituality level. Not again that it's wrong, because the souls that are creating that are obviously a part of that experience. They feel they require it. There is bringing them joy. And again, it's no judgment here. But because you have been moved into this new level, it will no longer bring you joy. You will feel, well, that's not for me. So what do I do now? And I'm shown there's a lot of people now in this transitional process. So sometimes people comment on my posts and they say, well, I don't know what my mission is now, and I want to help. How do I help? I don't know. I just don't know how. Well, the thing is that the mind wants to get too much involved because the mind is thinking you need to do something specific. Again, that's a part of the labeled spirituality. You need to have a certain practice. You need to have workshops. You need to do something, and then you're helping. Not necessarily, you see? So you becoming this higher instrument so that the divine can work through you, and this high vibrational attunement can become a part of the experience. You're becoming a divine helper. You already are. You're being called in, and you're listening to that calling just by asking the question. So every day, if you're one of those who says, I don't know how, ask yourself the question. It's a simple question. How may I serve the divine light of unity consciousness? How may I serve this planetary ascension and be in assistance to Gaia and all life on it? It's so simple. And when we ask, we vibrationally align with that. So we put that out there. But the majority of the things that humans are still putting out there is based on personal needs, personal relationship, me, my own things, my possessions, you know. And then some of these things we label as spiritual because, you know, there might be related to yoga, crystals, books. Okay, it's just the initial state when, you know, you're kind of like slowly getting the gist of it, but it's not yet embodied, it's not yet vibrational, and it's not yet including the component of these higher spiritual levels. So, my dears, it's so much is coming through, and I was literally shown how this process takes place. So, when you are an angelic embodiment yourself, what you're doing is you're creating a vibrational makeup that goes into the whole. So it's kind of like it goes into records that we know as the human records or the human Akasha, and then there's the more collective Akasha, and, you know, so far, so forth. And it's like the collective pool of what was the experience and what could be experienced, and then that vibrational call out will give a respondence or correspondence to the physical makeup being produced, because the physical, remember, always follows the energetic. It follows the core signature. It follows the patterns of light. So with this light transference, we don't yet perhaps see the things we're doing and we're seeing here, but it's definitely happening, and this is a part of this higher spirituality I'm talking about. You know, there's a lot of people who wouldn't even consider themselves as spiritual, and yet they're doing beautiful light work. Because they're focusing on becoming higher instruments, and they're not necessarily reading spiritual books and things like that. So it's very simple. It's going to the basics of everything as vibration, and really knowing yourselves as vibration and starting a vibrational training. So if you're interested, this will be up soon, this new audiobook. You could also see other audiobooks that I have available there. That's quite a few, and they're also super cool. I also want to mention again the Galactic Human Embodiment course. I've made it together in parallel with the Cosmic Dance for the Galactic Human. It's also available in a package with my Tantrical Life Force Mastery, and as well as the Galactic Human is also packaged in with the Cosmic Dance. So you have two available packages with major discount of energetic exchange. And I cannot forget to tell you, you can also become a supporter of mine, of these videos that they go out there and to share with the whole on Patreon. Or, you know, you can always just randomly donate if you feel called to reciprocate on my donation page on Serapina Light webpage. There's also personal sessions available, and I cannot forget to add that as well. So for me, I have to tell this with you. I have to share this with you. It's very natural to do this work. It's very easy for me. It's always in flow. So I really look forward to every session I do. It's more like what I do at the side, because my main mission here is to do this vibrational work. But I am a universal guide, and this means that I've mastered the art of guiding through spirit, which is this benevolent guidance that comes directly through this higher planes. And for me, I always see things. I just see this bigger picture. So that's why I say it's easy for me to see through these patterns that sometimes people can't see through. And it's not that, you know, I really always support, and I always tell people, do your inner work, you know, follow your inner guidance. But sometimes people don't know how to integrate this on their own, and they need somehow they require this additional input from this higher perspective, which is this benevolent spirit infusion that brings them into a more clarity and gives them this understanding of where they are at currently and how they can move even further in their own vibrational embodiment. So that's available, and many other things on my page. So go browse through, and as always, I'm creating so much with love. And I want to say that I really wish you to have a beautiful, magical November wherever you are. Focus on this vibrational work, that you are becoming the highest vessel. If you don't know how, you can always participate in my Tantrika Life Force Mastery course, because it's like that ultimate, level of what we need. And then the cosmic dance is the advancement of moving into the body of this inner illumined beloved, cosmic beloved journey. So that's it for this month. May you have many blessings. As always, share with me. You can write me your sharings as well. Just don't make them too long so I don't have too much to read. But I always love to hear from you. And wherever you are, do this beautiful, higher light activation and welcome yourselves back home into this higher space. So again, I'll talk to you very soon. We'll see what presents itself in this month. And as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care, and I'll see you. When you align with the path of vibrational spirituality through your self-mastery, everything else will naturally align with that. Everything will fall into place. So just trust, look at this life from a higher perspective, and see what you're seeding in this lifetime through the perspective of many lifetimes that in parallel run through and intertwine with each other, creating the most sacred artistry of creation that you are an intrinsic part of. An illumined co-creator, a divine being here to manifest many beautiful things that have to begin vibrationally first. The mind does not always comprehend this, so it wants to be ahead of the process of creating. And yet, when you attune to this vibrational programming within you, you take everything from the core essence of your being, and you start to, through the light infusion process, bring it into this physical manifested form. And that is why you are here in this higher spiritual path. It is your sacred calling, it is a rite of passage, and it is a welcoming back home to who you truly are, and trusting that it all unfolds when you choose to align only with this path, with being the planetary light server, and being the magical creator being that is here to share with all the blessings of the one and many, the blessings of the light of creation, to live in complete illumination. So go forth in peace, and may so be it, and so it is.